Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Councillor Olson.
Here.
Councillor Bridge. Here. Councillor Bender. Here. Councillor Stenberg. Councillor McDonald. Councillor Joyle.
Here.
Councillor Finsland. Here. Councillor Herrick.
Here.
Councillor McKenzie.
Here.
Councillor Brown.
Here.
Councillor Nowicki.
Here.
And Councillor Sather.
Here.
Recognizing a quorum will proceed, and I'll ask for approval of the minutes of the March 20th meeting.
Second.
Heard a motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public hearings.
Item 5.1 is a public hearing to consider proposed improvements to the R.I. Bong Memorial Airport and request the state and federal funding by petition of the Wisconsin Bureau of Aeronautics.
Director Getzman.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilors, tonight we have a short public hearing on some proposed projects at the Bong Airport coming up over the next number of years. There's a petition process here that we're projects considered for federal funding. And we've got a couple of people tonight from Cooper Engineering who have been helping us with this process, Brad Volker and Amy Kelsey. And I'd like them to say just a few words about the process and introduce you to the map and the projects that are on the list.
Yeah. Not sure.
Good.
Where everybody will see it. We've got a couple here, and we'll leave one face towards the audience here. Go ahead, Amy.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Amy Kelsey, and from Cooper Engineering. I'm just going to briefly describe the process that the Bureau of Aeronautics requires, what the importance of the public hearing is tonight, and then talk a little bit about guidelines, and Brad will talk about the proposed improvements over the next 3 years at the Richard I. Bong Memorial Airport. This hearing today is part of a process that the Wisconsin Bureau of Aeronautics has statutorily set to request or petition for funding. The Wisconsin Department of Transportation, Bureau of Aeronautics, requests that all airports submit future needs or projects to the Bureau of Aeronautics. They compile the list of projects, and they can then budget the improvements statewide and act as the agent for Federal Aviation Administration consideration for funding. The Wisconsin Bureau of Aeronautics and the Bong Airport developed a list of potential projects that may be needed over the next 3 years. These 10 items are listed on the resolution tonight, and Brad will briefly describe each of them. Inclusion of these projects on the petitioning list does not guarantee funding for them, nor does it require that a project will occur. This list just serves as a planning document for the Bureau of Aeronautics. They prioritize the needs, coordinate with local airports, organize timelines, and make awards as they see fit and as funding allows. Some of the guidelines for the public hearing, we request that all information or comments tonight be relevant to the projects and factual, and we'd like to remind the public that there is a 10-day, additional 10 days to submit comments to either the airport or to Jeff Getzman until April 14th to submit comments. With that, I will have Brad describe the 10 improvements.
Sure. I guess I'll stand here and describe these improvements on this map. If anybody in the audience here would have a question as I do this, because it's hard for you to see what I'm pointing at, by all means, speak up. There's 10 items listed here, and some of them are very well defined, and some of them are a little more open-ended. But one thing that the airport would like to do and should do in the next few years is refurbish their automated weather observation system, commonly called the AWOS. That provides real-time weather information to pilots, both that are on the ground at the airport preparing to take flight and pilots that are en route. And that's that system exists at the airport, just kind of across the smaller runway from the terminal area there. It's a lot of electronic gear, and it's a lot of that equipment has seen better days, and it's just all over the state. They're in the process of updating these all over the state, so that's one of the items. The terminal building, your nice new terminal building, that's on the list here. There's basically just an opportunity to possibly reimburse the city for some of the funds that the city has put into that project, and so that's why that's on the list. The next item is crack repair and seal coat of existing airport pavements. The Federal Aviation Administration and the Wisconsin DOT, Bureau of Aeronautics, are fairly more and more so these days. They want to encourage airports to spend monies to maintain the pavements you have. So they help fund projects to do seal coats and crack filling and maintain what you have to increase longevity of those pavements. So that's on the list, and they would help fund that. We have a kind of a general statement here, which ends up on almost every petition resolution like this, kind of a blanket statement of land acquisition for any airport developments that may need that kind of thing. For the projects that we've shown here, there's no real known land acquisition that's needed, but they like to throw that on every list. Sometimes you get in a situation where maybe trees have grown up in the approach area to a runway, and to deal with those trees, you may have to purchase an easement, or you may just purchase the property fee simple to deal with those objects that are getting too high. In Wisconsin, typically those objects are trees. They can be other things at times. The next item on the list is very on the similar train of thought: clear and maintain your runway approaches. So if there is a tree issue, the Bureau of Aeronautics and the FAA will also help kick in money to actually go trim those trees or cut them down or do logging or whatever may be necessary there. Next item, construct parallel taxiways. Now we're getting into some color that's on the map. By the way here, what's shown on this exhibit, everything you see in yellow is existing infrastructure that's out at the airport. Basically your secondary, smaller runway 1331, and then your primary 5,100 foot runway that's kind of northeast, southwest. The ramp that's in the terminal area amongst all the hangars. What you see in red on this drawing is some of the items that are listed here for proposed additions to the infrastructure out there. And a lot of this is driven by not only a general aviation airport like you have here, which is a very nice airport. These parallel taxiways are driven by a desire to improve safety. If an aircraft lands on a runway, the sooner it can get off that runway and taxi back on a parallel route and clear the runway, the better. So a lot of this is driven by obviously your hard work here in the city to court Kestrel, and companies like Kestrel, it's very important for them to have these safety features at their airport. So a lot of this is driven by that, but even without that, it's the same kinds of things that airports of your size airport are pursuing all over the state. So back to the list here. Construct parallel taxiways. Those are the red pieces you see alongside your runways there. Connector taxiways, that's just the short little pieces that connect between the parallel taxiway and out to the runway at various points. And then a Kestrel access taxiway. a way to get over to that property where Kestrel is looking to build one of their facilities. Another thing the airport would like to do in the next handful of years is build a public use hangar. And that would be a hangar that would be owned and built by the city with the help of state and or federal dollars. And it would be used to generate income for the airport. That space in that hangar would be leased out to tenants. And that is something that is eligible for state and federal funding. And so a lot of airports around the state are doing that. Install an approach lighting system. You have a very nice airport here in Superior. One thing that would be very useful for your airport users and industry in town would be an approach lighting system. And we have that we have that shown on this drawing off the southwest end of the main runway out towards Tower Avenue. It's a little unclear at this point if that's where an approach light system would end up. It would end up on a runway end. The purpose of an approach lighting system is to provide that much more lights for pilots to hone in on during bad weather when they're landing in bad weather conditions, when they're flying by instrument. And so during fog or rain or snow, it's those lights that typically draw attention, let a pilot know where it's at, kind of. Particularly because they string out beyond the end of a runway, it's getting lights that much closer to the pilot before they're at a point where they have to land. So extremely helpful. Typically those kinds of lights oftentimes have flashing. Portions of them will flash, but it's also typical that those kinds of lights are on only when the pilot turns them on during a landing. So they're not something that runs 24/7. We have an item on the list, second item to the last there, runway 422 and runway 1432 rehabilitation. Let's see, I had the pleasure of helping build your new runway here in about, I think, 97. And then I think, I want to say around 2001 maybe, we rehabbed the smaller runway here. It's amazing how time flies. Even though we have a line item on here for crack repair and seal coat, possibly within the next handful of years you might look at a more substantial rehab of some of those existing pavements. And so that's why that's on the list there. Last item is basically purchasing snow removal equipment and mowing equipment. And that is something that's become eligible for federal and state funding in the last handful of years. And so there are a lot of airports in the state that are pursuing, with WSDOT's help and FAA's help, the purchase of snow removal equipment, plows and blowers and brooms. So that's it in a nutshell. I'd be glad to, I guess I should also note here, there's just a few notes on here, but any necessary related work that would go with those things. Some of this work would probably require an environmental assessment. You folks are known for having wetlands, and some of this work would affect wetlands, and there would be environmental work that would take place. That's about it. I guess, Jeff, can you think of anything I might be skipping there or missing?
I guess I can't think of anything else to add right at the moment then. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions that anybody on either side of me here would have that I could answer or attempt to answer? This is pretty much a brainstorm list where you're saying these are the things we might be approaching you for funding for. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
President Olson?
Brad, if you could just Right here. What is the lifetime of a runway when you're talking rehabilitation compared to complete replacement?
That's a good question. You know, in the roadway engineering business, we hear a lot that we are designing things for a design life of 20 years. And, you know, as we drive our cars and pickups and whatnot down the road, our vehicles can take potholes much better than aircraft can. So where we're typically trying to design, a lot of times you're limited by funding, and sometimes you don't make that 20 years in a design life because you didn't have enough money to spend to do it right on a street or a road. Sometimes you do better than that. A typical, you know, kind of the rule of thumb for airport work is you're trying to get 15 years out of a pavement before you do something substantial. And that the main reason for that is aircraft are, I guess they're not four-wheel drive, and they need a smoother surface with less problems.
And the reason I'm asking that is if we're considering petitioning the state, would it be wise to shoot for the moon and ask for complete replacement and settle for rehabilitation? Is that something that we've considered or you have considered?
I think that's a good question, but I don't think you have much risk there by not doing that. The state DOT, who would act as your agent in this process, actually, because Wisconsin is a block grant state, they get a big block of money from the Federal Aviation Administration, and then they're charged with prioritizing many, many projects throughout the whole state. Their whole job is funding taxiways and runways and the rehabilitations of those kinds of things. So I mean, they're very big into spending money to maintain those pavements, but they're also very big into rehabilitating those pavements when it's time. I'm not sure if I answered your question there.
Well, I'm reaching for the moon. If we're going to get a Kestrel airline facility in this town, you know, get the whole new runways and everything, and, you know, if it was possible.
Yeah, I guess on this list is preparing to rehabilitate. So, and that's why it made the list, because we think, you know, in the next few years it may be time to do that, and that sounds about right. If this runway was basically rebuilt in 2001, well, we're getting close to that, 15 years.
But what was the other one, 97?
The other one, I believe, was 97. That runway, I guess, just because I happened to have the pleasure of being out there when it was built, it's built real well with I think 18 inches of breaker run under it. I'm sure it's real sound underneath, but Mother Nature is hard on surfaces, even though they don't get, you know, pounded by semi trucks all day, every day. So it's almost more of a ride issue than anything for the aircraft.
So I got one more question, then I'll leave you alone.
Sure.
Definition of rehabilitation, are you talking about a mill and overlay? Or
Yeah, I mean,
skim coat blacktop, or 2-inch bituminous, or what do you?
Yeah, that's a good question too. Rehabilitate would be something less than a reconstruct. When I think of a reconstruct, that's typically not only working on the surface pavement, but anywhere from a foot to 5 feet below that with problems you have farther down. Rehabilitate typically would be a mill and overlay, or just an overlay, or maybe a pulverize the pavement you have and make that added base course or gravel, and then pave it.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Counselor?
You've talked about prioritizing these projects throughout the state. do we have any extra oomph on that priority ladder because of the job creation in the industry?
That's a great question. I cannot personally speak for the Wisconsin DOT, Bureau of Aeronautics, or the FAA, but in my experience, those types of situations do have a lot of pull. The Bureau of Aeronautics is, all the people that work there love aviation, or most of them, and so they love things happening like Kestrel, and they want to do what they can to promote aviation. I think it's, to be able to complement all the hard work that's gone into that already, I would say that definitely has some pull. I don't think I could quantify it. And that's another point. This list of items, the schedule of when those would happen and in what order they might happen is really not the detail for tonight.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Anything else?
Thank you for the discussion. I'm sorry. I'll call for a public hearing, and those that wish to speak in favor of may do so now. Those that wish to speak in favor of may do so now. And for the last time, those that wish to speak in favor of may do so now. Hearing none, those that wish to speak in opposition may do so now. Those that wish to speak in opposition may do so now. And finally, those that wish to speak in opposition may do so now. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the public hearing to a close.
Item 5.1 is a resolution petitioning the Secretary of Transportation for airport improvement aid by the Common Council of the City of Superior, Douglas County, Wisconsin.
You've heard the motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 6 is the consent agenda.
Heard the motion and second for approval. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 7.1, Finance Director Vito is submitting the 2012 stormwater budget.
President Olson. Is there a motion and second for referral to finance? Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 7.2, Public Works Director Getzman is requesting authorization to sell excess and obsolete fleet vehicles and equipment.
Heard a motion and second to approve. Discussion? Councilor Bender.
Yes, I have a question, and I don't know if this is for Jeff Getzman or if it's for Chief Rigstead. Is one of the units listed the fire truck?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And by the way, at 28th and Tower today, after you just watched the new rig, I saw it looks pretty impressive. But would that be fire units too? Would it be one of those two listed on here?
Yes, we have the old dive truck and then the pumper we'll be getting rid of, the 1989 pumper.
Okay. And has someone from the Amnicon Volunteer Fire Department spoken to you about this?
Yes, they have. They were basically requesting that the city donate that vehicle to them. And I did not feel comfortable bringing that request to the city council, thinking that we should get whatever we can for it at auction.
Well, and that does make sense. But could you give a ballpark figure what you think this would be worth?
The salesman that is here with our new rig did an appraisal on it, and he thought it would sell for right around $6,000 to $8,000.
Well, someone is here from the Amdecon Volunteer Fire Department who had signed up to speak later. Maybe we should have, it's Wade Hill. Maybe we should have Wade step up and speak right now. I think I caught him off guard.
Hi, my name's Wade Hill. I'm the chief of the Amdecon Fire Department. I guess a few weeks ago, one of the Superior firefighters just brought it to our attention that you guys received a new truck and would have a old truck that you were getting rid of, and I guess we'd be interested in that vehicle.
And how much newer is this than the rig you currently have?
We have two trucks that are 1979 and 1977, and one truck that's newer, which is a 1999.
Okay. And I know I've been contacted by a number of people about this issue, and I guess what would be the correct procedure now as far as this one item, as far as pulling it, referring it?
Well, we address in the city code, Councilor Bender, in Chapter 2, the disposition of surplus city property. I assume this is surplus city property. It's lived past its useful life, at least for us. So the chief, or our Public Works Director, is appropriately presenting you with a list of items that they want your blessing to dispose of, and that would be by sealed bid or public auction.
These would traditionally be sold at an auction.
I'm guessing that's the mechanism we usually choose, and I thought I heard that a moment ago. As indicated a minute ago, the code contemplates public auction or sale by sealed bid.
And that's what's been done in the past with the old vehicles.
So would it be possible to exclude this one vehicle and have that sold by a sealed bid?
I would assume so.
Yep.
So, and Wade, what would you think about that? Knowing that you have no money. So,
That would be acceptable to us.
to have it go to a sealed bid, and then you would be able to make a sealed bid on it?
Yes.
Okay. Now, would it be proper to do that, to exclude one vehicle from going down to auction and one to be sold at sealed bid?
I don't see anything in the ordinance that obligates this council to have it all go to sealed bid or have all items or all vehicles go to public auction. I don't see why you couldn't pick and select.
Okay.
I think that's your financial compass is going to drive that decision more than anything I can find in the code.
Councilor Brown?
Yeah, and then does this money go back to the general fund, or does it go into a vehicle type of thing, or?
It goes back into our capital improvement program.
Okay.
That's where we originally spend the money out of.
Okay, and then do we put a minimum bid on it? You know, if it doesn't go for X number of dollars and it's, you know.
Put a reserve on it.
Yeah. Do we do that, or how does that work?
I think a lot of times, Counselor, some of these vehicles either get traded as part of a purchase of a new piece of equipment. And kind of the list you see in front of you is a list that we're proposing to remove from the fleet that we have through one means or another. As Attorney Pearl points out, there's auctions, there's sealed bids. I think oftentimes some of these have been taken downstate to an auction service, and they may sell, like if we trade 4 or 5 police cars in, for example, on other ones, they may take those in auction and send us the proceeds. Rather than us advertise, 3 cars or 1 car. I think the fire truck here is maybe a separate it's kind of a unique piece of equipment. I think that one, on a sealed bid of its own is not an issue. I mean, we could easily do that.
Yeah, 'cause I guess my point is, rather than see it go for $200 or something on a deal like that, I would surely see it benefit, our neighbors down the Amacon Lake, than go for a little or nothing.
Vice President Herrick?
Yeah, I just want to kind of touch on what Bob said, and maybe clarify it for me. So the fire truck was evaluated at $68,000. Does that bid start at that, or how does that usually work on a $6,000 to $8,000, yes? I mean, is there opening bid? I mean, that's required?
Not that I know of. When it goes to auction, there's no parameters put on it. This is just a very rough estimate on what other vehicles across the country are selling at, vehicles that are in the condition that the vehicle that we're getting rid of is.
Okay, thanks.
There's something in this code that I should make clear to this council that you probably haven't contemplated. And it goes like this: in the event of a public auction or sale by sealed bid, the item will be sold in as-is condition, that's to be expected, I suppose, to the person submitting the highest bid, provided, however, that a lower bid submitted by a nonprofit organization or a governmental agency may be accepted by the mayor. I stopped. There's more than that, but I stopped reading after what I thought was relevant or germane to this conversation, because it looks like the mayor has the authority in the context of surplus property being disposed of by sealed bid or public auction to take other than the highest bid on a particular piece of equipment if the lower bidder is that nonprofit organization or the governmental agency. So that might bear on how this plays out. I thought I should share that. In other words, Amnicon might expect to go and be a bidder, just like anybody else would who would be interested in this property. And if they were outbid by $500 or $600 or $800, or whatever the case might be, they still might be in the running by virtue of that language that I just read to you from the code.
Councilor Bender?
And I just wanted to ask, the Volunteer Fire Department is a nonprofit, correct? Okay, so it does cover that. So I'll ask the city attorney, where do we go from here to be able to do this?
Auction,
Okay.
I think,
Well,
unless I'm missing something.
Auction or sealed bid.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will so move for that one vehicle that we go to a sealed bid.
President Olson?
There is a motion on the floor, so I would like to amend my motion. Amend the motion to exclude, Jeff, will you give me a description of that one fire unit, or Jim?
It's a 1989 Monarch
Fire engine?
fire engine.
Got that, Terry? Okay, that's my amended motion. Who had the second? Bob?
I think Warren did. Mike Herrick did.
You've heard the amendment.
If I do, I will accept it, the amended motion.
Does the second accept the amendment?
You accept the amended motion?
Yes, I did. I accepted the amended.
Okay, I'm sorry. All in favor of the amended motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry. Councilor McKenzie, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I guess the question I had is, so just a sealed bid then for the fire rigs and then public auction for the other? Just the one.
Just the one.
Just the one, and then public auction? And the other one's public auction. Is that right? Okay. All right.
You've heard the vote. Vote stands. Pardon me?
Where are we at?
The amended motion passed.
Good.
I don't think they've
No,
done it.
pardon me?
Pardon?
We
voted on it, I missed it.
No, I don't think they voted on it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we did. All in favor signify. I need that. I've had too many today. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Thank you very much.
Item 8.1, Mayor Hagan is appointing Harold Grossman to the Superior Business Improvement District Board of Directors for a term expiring December 2014.
All in favor? Opposed, motion carried.
Item 9.1 is the Youth Counselor Report by Councilor Nowicki.
Yeah, well, I guess I don't want to take up too much more time now, but I just real briefly, in light of the election, I'd like to talk, like I said, real briefly just about youth voters. By that, I mean voters like Zach and myself, several of our friends who I guess aren't technically youth, because we're 18 and we can vote, but also, small children who go with their parents, see how it's done, see the democratic process. I think it's just it's good to see them us out, being active in our community and exercising the freedom that we're so lucky to have in this country.
Thank you, Councilor.
Item 10.1 is the resolution of the Common Council of the City of Superior approving execution of a development agreement, grant agreement, and lease agreement in connection with the Hallett Dock Wall project.
What is the pleasure? Heard the motion and second. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 10.1, a resolution introduced by the mayor and fire chief to urge the Joint Finance Committee to extend the Wisconsin Hazardous Materials Response Network contracts.
Heard the motion and second. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 10.3 is a resolution introduced by the Community Development Division of the City of Superior, setting a public hearing for May 15th in the Government Center for the 2011 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report.
Heard the motion and second. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Any business by the public? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Stand adjourned. Gee, thanks.
Yeah.